Hello, everybody. Jack York here from IN2L. I'm one of the founders of the company, and delighted to be doing a virtual presentation for OSPA. IN2L has been big fans of OSPA for, gosh, probably, I don't know, close to 7 or 8 years. Been a part of a lot of your conferences, a lot of speaking, and a lot of your members have done great CMP projects with us. So we love the association, and I'm glad to be speaking today. It's somewhat of a lighter presentation compared to everything else that you're dealing with COVID related. So before I get light, I do want to just give a quick shout out to all of you out there who are. I know your membership is a wide range of folks, but anyone who's actively involved in a community, just nothing but prayers and good thoughts out your way. You're doing God's work. You're putting your life on the line, and it's such a tough time, and obviously seems to be taking a step back before it takes a step forward. So thank you for all the work that you are doing. A lot of pride in the profession right now. And so anyway, IN2L, we've been around for 21 years. All our company's all about different ways to engage older adults living in senior living communities. At the end of the presentation, I'll talk for a couple minutes about what we're up to. But the point of this presentation is really just looking at things that have happened. It's somewhat of an optimistic message of good things that have happened that people have learned from through COVID from a technology standpoint that really is a creative way to benefit your residents. So again, IN2L has been around for 21 years, so we've really built the whole company on the importance of keeping people connected. And my own, I guess, editorial commentary is I think it has nothing to do with aging, and it has nothing to do with where somebody is cognitively. We all want to be relevant. We all want to stay connected with the friends that we have, whether inside the community or outside the community. You want to be known within the community. You want to stay connected to your friends, to your family. That has nothing. That's just the human condition. And I think that again, one of the silver linings from our context with COVID has been all of a sudden people have, for gut-wrenching reasons of people not being able to be connected with their family, all of a sudden this issue of engagement has really risen to the forefront. I think these issues have always been there, but they haven't always been optimized among a lot of providers. So engagement does matter, and the flip side to that is really just some of the issues associated with isolation. And it's these statistics are well before COVID, and I certainly wasn't surprised to see how things tied to being depressed might have some just kind of health issues, but I was surprised that it would tie to anxiety and sleep disorders and falls and all these other things that we're talking about. But again, at the end of the day, we want to be connected. So I think you look at this issue of isolation, you look at this issue of how do we get people connected, and ironically enough, I think you can go back a few decades. This may age myself as a speaker, but hopefully some of you can relate to this, is the Jetsons. We as a society have become the Jetsons. I remember a kid, I love watching the Jetsons, and you had that kind of a half telephone, half television, and just that whole way to stay connected, George talking to Jane, and at the time it seemed so far-fetched, and look at where we've come. You look at that whole context of being able to stay connected, and look at how we're doing it. I look at my own life personally. I've got 3 kids in their 20s that are spread out all over the country, a son in DC, a son in New Orleans, and a daughter in Southern California. And once a week, we are doing a board game online. Every other week, we're doing a Zoom call and staying connected. So, I mean, we're all finding these unique ways to stay connected through technology. And, none of this is meant to imply that it replaces the hug and the connection, but it's certainly a heck of a lot better than not doing anything. And it's been fascinating for me to see a lot of the resident-driven technology tools and explorations that have happened through the pandemic. This is the picture you're looking at right here. The gentleman in the top center, Jack Cumming, he's a good friend of mine, and he's a real smart technology guy, and I lean on him a lot when we're testing new devices and such. But he completely on his own, he set up a live stream at Front Porch. He's at a community called Front Porch in California, and he set this live stream up for all of the residents. They got like 60 residents at the community, and every day they have something different, different topically. Well, one day it may be politics, and one day sports, and one day music, whatever it may be. He has it all mapped out. And at 3:30, people just click and log in, and they're talking. And so I think these are the kind of things that are unique. We certainly see that in what we're doing as a company, to try to look at ways to connect people who were maybe they were in the same battalion in the Korean War, or maybe they went to the same Presbyterian church outside of Tulsa. That all these little connections that are available through this whole Zoom, Skype world that we're living in now, and it's cool stuff. So I think really it's remarkable, and it's fun to see different ways that it's being looked at. This next clip here, and I know it's hard in GoToMeeting to pick up on these clips, so I'll frame it and play this clip, and maybe it'll play well, and maybe it won't. But anyway, this is something from 3 years ago that's incredibly relevant now, I think, and that is you have a husband and wife at a senior living community in Colorado, and this is using our technology. And so what they've done is they've set up a room in their community to do these kinds of joint calls. And so that's their grandson. He's in California, they're in Colorado. And what the grammar school teacher has done is every week she mails to the senior living community just tidbits of what the lesson plan is going to be for that next week. So the grandparents come in, and the grandmother has macular degeneration. She struggles with a smaller device, so she loves just getting right in front of the big screen. And you'll see, or hopefully you'll see, her grandson doing homework with his grandparents.
Sorry, I was ripping on the cat's ear.
Yeah, and so again, I'm sure it's probably hard to pick up on that, but just the grandson doing homework with grandmother, and you look at these two worlds that potentially can collide, I think, from a technology standpoint, and that's the world of senior living and the world of education. And I just think that some of these things have been done anecdotally, but it's a great chance to get, I think, a lot more proactive from a senior living community standpoint, and that is to reach out to a school. And a lot of schools obviously are forced to be doing remote learning. So if the class is studying the Vietnam War or the Korean War or whatever it may be, and you've got a couple of veterans in your community, what a great thing to do, to be able to have via a Skype call or via video chat, to be able to have that person talking about the experience and adding incredible depth above and beyond what a textbook could provide. So again, I'm not trying to come across like all these things are better than face-to-face visits, but my point is that there really is some creative things that can be done with this whole intersection of technology capability on the one hand, and just the lack of people's ability to easily stay connected on the other. So you have examples of organizations that historically have been reluctant to make their content available for free, or make it available without just a really in-depth login process. And all of a sudden, people are changing their tune. They're making it readily accessible to be able to get some of this content that's available. So I've got a few slides I'm going to be showing with links that are on there. Don't worry about writing these links down. You'll have access to the presentation, and we also we have a list of just 4 or 5 pages of free resources. I can get that to Tara, and she can get it out to anybody who's watching the webinar. So again, don't worry about writing all these things down. So anyway, you have things like museums, and I try to look at some when I'm talking about things on a presentation like this. I do like to look at some of them to make sure that what I'm promoting is a good thing to do. And so I've been to the Louvre a couple times in my life, and so I went to the online Louvre website that was out there, and it was fascinating. It was really cool that a lot of the content was almost 3D, the way you could look at pictures and sculptures and stuff from different angles, and then have a really, a very detailed description of the piece of art, of the artist, of what the motivation was, just a lot of things that it was just kind of cool. And so I think that these are just, again, examples of what's out there that people may be aware of, but maybe not. And it's a great thing to make accessible through whatever technology you have available in your own community. Spirituality is really just another significant opportunity to be able to take advantage of in these crazy times. And there's both there's a micro piece to it as well as a macro piece to it. So the micro piece to it is with churches and houses of worship kind of going through their own reinventing themselves, and so many things being done virtually, is just to reach out to the local church, the local synagogue, whatever it may be, to make sure you're abreast of what they are providing online, and then making it available for your residents. And obviously, it's the right thing to do from making the content available for your residents, but the business benefit of doing that, and obviously it's not the primary motivation, but it's a great secondary benefit, is that it's a way to foster a relationship with the pastor, with the rabbi, with the priest, whatever, and be able to have what can turn out to be a great source of referrals when families that are a part of that spiritual community need to do something with their mom or dad. It's great if there's a relationship that you have forged. I'm sure a lot of you already do this, but it's just a great way to reach out locally and make those connections. I'll talk later about some opportunities along the same lines from a business standpoint as a way to stay connected as well. So anyway, from a macro standpoint, there's just these really good websites that take you to all kinds of different spiritual places as well. So for example, Our Daily Bread that I have listed there, it's got multiple denominations, a lot of different sermons and such that you can really kind of craft a individual denomination service on some of these things. So you've got that from Daily Bread. For folks that maybe don't have as much of a formal religious affiliation, but are spiritual in their own way, that site that's listed there, Utmost, very much full of inspirational words and uplifting messages that don't really have a specific religion attached to them. I also threw on there the Come Pray the Rosary. I grew up Catholic. My mom would say the Rosary 2 or 3 times a week. And to be able to go onto the site and you can join other people, and they have like all these different kinds of rosaries that I had no idea were out there. But again, it's going back to what I said before about affinity groups. You can find from a spiritual standpoint, definite way to make connections. We've seen communities get incredibly creative with hallway activities, and everybody looks at these things differently, as they have the right to. Some of them look at them as kind of demeaning, and some of them look at them as just a fun thing to do. But, excuse me, that top picture in particular, it's kind of hard to tell, but it's actually the residents are fishing. It's a little plastic fishing program that they slide it in front of like 4 different residents, and then they fished for a half hour. And what a couple of communities that are doing something like this, what they've told me is it's a great way for them to kind of see who are the residents that are really isolating too much, that aren't willing to get out at all. And so that's kind of a side benefit of doing that. The bottom picture, you can't really see our system, but a lot of our systems are portable, and we're a content company as much as anything else. So we have all kinds of music, of karaoke, of different kinds of music trivia, of spiritual hymns, of short books on tape. But a lot of people, they take our system and we have great Bose speakers on it, so you just crank it up at the end of the hallway, and people that want to come out can listen. And again, just feel like they're participating in something. I'll show you in a few minutes, you'll see some of the group activities that at least in some states are starting to happen again with a social distancing flair to them. But again, just wild examples of creativity out there from communities, and the back half of this presentation is really talking about a lot of that specifically. There's lots of virtual entertainment that's out there. Again, these sites are listed, but people love going to webcams, to puppy cams, to things from zoos, funny videos, travel. There's all kinds of great travel videos just on YouTube. And I'm sure most people know this, but a lot of people don't. And you can really virtually go all over the place and be able to enjoy those things. Lots of things happening from a music standpoint, with live streaming videos happening, with just concerts being obviously shut down. So just lots of creativity from a performance standpoint. I have there on one bullet to rewatch the classic sports. I'm a big Nebraska Cornhuskers football fan, and it's the coolest thing to go back and look at. They haven't been that good the last few years, but when I was 20 years ago, they were great. And so you can go back and watch. You just put in a YouTube, type in the year of a game that you like, and it's not always there, but a lot of times they are. And I can sit and, this may say something about myself socially, but I can sit and watch an old game like that, even though I know they're going to win, but I'll still, obviously I don't want to watch the games when they lose. So you take the win-lose emotion out of it, but it's just a cool thing to do. And I know my dad passed a long, long time ago, but I guarantee you, he and I could have sat and watched Cornhusker games over and over again. So getting creative can put smiles on people's faces, that's for sure. And again, we do see some of the group activities starting to kind of trickle back into play. This is a great example of a kind of joint use of technology. We're really good friends with a company called Eversound that has speakers that are ideal for residents that do have some kind of hearing loss. And they work really well with our engagement technology. This is an example of remote bingo happening that it's kind of hard to see, but in the bottom right picture, the woman is looking at our system. There's a call out function to it, but the residents spread out throughout the community, they have their bingo cards and they've got their remote speakers, and they're able to stay connected that way to bingo. By the way, just in case I forget to say this, at the end of the presentation, you'll see my email address, and I'm happy if you have specific questions about some of these things that I'm showing. I'd love to get dialogue going with what we're doing and what we see happening, but also what may be happening in your community as well. Oops, went through that before. So again, we talked about the travel types of clips. Rick Steves Europe has been a great place for us to go to. They're part of our content. But again, it's like I said, there's lots of things you can do by searching YouTube it's going to screen it a little bit because it can get you into some weird places, but it's been cool to see that. So lots of good stuff that's out there, and we love being, just kind of seeing what is out there. And so, like I said, lots of just resources out there left and right, and all these things on here are part of what I'll be sending to Tara later. But again, just other quick examples that I'm good friends with the CEO of United Methodist Homes in New Jersey, Larry Carlson, and he was telling me that he's for many years has been a member of a donor for the Philadelphia Philharmonic Orchestra, and he said he was so bummed when they couldn't go see the concerts this year live but they started watching them online, and he said it was fascinating because you could, it's almost like a, like the just the box of different pictures of people, like in a Zoom video or whatever, but each person was a member of the orchestra. So you have the violinist, and you've got the cello and whatever it may be. And he said you can kind of zoom in on that person. You can almost play conductor and tweak the volume a little bit, take a break for 5 minutes, then come back. And he said it was oddly worthwhile. He was really surprised to see that. So again, lots of things like that are out there. I've heard some residents that are learning different languages through all this. There's Spanish movies and French movies and German and Italian. The last link on here is something else that I tried out, the virtual field trip, and it was really cool. You felt like you were the 14-year-old back in school getting a day off of the normal grind and climbing the big yellow bus and go to a museum or something. But they have different places you could go that really did have kind of that experiential vibe of taking a step into yesteryear and going to the field trips that we used to all do. So lots of things for staff, lots of things for residents. Again, all these links take you different places. They're really, it's just amazing, all of the creativity that's been out there among organizations to make some of their content available and relevant. It's certainly something that we have done. IN2L, and again, I'll talk a little bit about it at the end, but IN2L provides all this engagement content for your residents, either from a activity programming standpoint or a therapy programming standpoint. So we have all this content and all these examples of things to do. And what we did is when the pandemic hit, is we went through all of our content that's only available to IN2L subscribers, and we pulled out what was the content that would be relevant for an activity director, for a therapist, whatever it may be, that maybe didn't have our system. We have a lot of puzzles and games and one-on-one activities and group activities and just things you can print out and have as a template. And so we just made all that available. By looking at that, you can see the link to that website on there. And again, that'll be on this list of resources. But we've gotten such good feedback from it. And again, like I was saying, group activities, one-on-one activities, just printable. We've seen some organizations put together newsletters that they usually do maybe once a month, and now they're doing them every day. And there's lots of content that we have, that maybe trivia quizzes and puzzles that you can just copy and paste and put into the body of a newsletter. So it's been great. We've got really good feedback with doing that, and we're going to certainly keep extending that for indefinitely long time. So anyway, that's kind of just some things out there technology-wise, all over really all over the internet, all the things that are out there, from experiential things to do. Like I said, a lot of your residents may have, excuse me, a lot of your residents may have already be doing those things or access to it, but a lot of people don't. And it's really, and again, I love to be talking about things that don't really require a lot of money. Everything has a labor component to it, but we have seen in a lot of communities, especially if it's a campus, where some of the independent residents have helped some of the folks in memory care or in skilled that may have would struggle cognitively doing some of the stuff on their own, helping them out with that. So that's all that's out there. And I love talking about some of the things that we see around the country in terms of communities just getting creative on their own. So I've got several examples that I'll be talking about that certainly speak to that. So this is a community, Christian Living Communities, just outside of here in Colorado, and they're making a big deal. Obviously, weather's going to start coming into play, but they're doing the appropriately socially distanced exercise. You can't really see the person leading the activity here, but that person's got a megaphone. And what I like about this picture is not only do you see the residents out there on the grounds, but up in the balconies, you can see some of the residents there getting out of their room and doing some creative stuff. So again, it doesn't always have to be about technology. It's a lot of it's just kind of creativity and volume. You've got to be doing things that are that are volume related. I like this picture. This is a great example of kind of multi-sensory things that are available to somebody. This is a 94-year-old in Virginia celebrating his 95th, I think, birthday. And it's you can see it's multi-sensory, that you've got on the left, you've got the tablet device and the family members all zooming in to wish their grandpa a happy birthday. And right next to that, you've got the cake. You've got the piece of cake there that he can enjoy for his birthday. And it's kind of hard to see, but I think my favorite part of this slide is the Motor Trend magazine, that you can see this guy has got his 95-year-old checking out Motor Trend, and I just love it. It's like technology is one piece of a puzzle. It's not the whole solution. And I think this picture definitely speaks to that. Speaking of having loud pipes, this is a shout out to a community also in Virginia, and that's the rec therapist there at this community, Covenant Woods. And what I'm hearing from a lot of communities is that they're just finding hidden talents among their staff. And in this case, it's not a surprise, it's a rec therapist, but in some communities, maybe it's a maintenance worker or a social worker, whatever it may be. But Lisa's out there apparently a couple times a day just belting it out at the top of her lungs, and the residents again come out in their balconies and their rooms to hear her sing. So if you reach out, my guess is that you'll find creative folks in your community that are willing, that work in your community, that are willing to get out of their comfort zone a little bit. This next clip, this is actually a video clip that again might look a little bit choppy, but I'll play it and hopefully it's okay. But and some people look at this and think it's really cool, and some people look at it and say they would never do that. And again, that's what it's all, kind of what it's all about, is what's relevant for the culture of your own community. But this is Methodist Retirement Communities in Texas and the hugging station that they set up.
We know that this will help keep everybody safe and keep our visits as positive and special as possible. Scheduling of our hugging station is based on the availability of our staff, including our cleaning crew, who tirelessly sanitizes the station between uses.
And again, hopefully you saw that clip, but it's just holes cut out of some plexiglass, and you're able to reach in, and families can hug the residents, and then they clean it up in between and all that stuff. So it's wild looking at a clip like that. Who in the heck would have thought a year ago that we are, that we're in the middle of something like this? But we are, and we're all having to be resilient. You guys in particular, and so again, these are examples of what people are doing. From a technology standpoint, this is friends of ours up in Canada, an organization called CABI that does all kinds of research. And I think another of the silver linings, I think, through the pandemic has been that some of the technology implementation that was already going to happen, it's just been accelerated. I mean, you look at telehealth. I had my own first telehealth visit last week locally in Denver, and it was what would have been a 45-minute drive and a wait in the lobby and all this stuff. It was a 15-minute call with a doc, and it was great. So a lot of these things have just been accelerated, like I said. And with CABI, that's a good example of that. They were already tiptoeing down a robot context, but with the pandemic, they just accelerated it. And so they really they took a few different technologies and plugged them all together. Mel Barsky is a good friend of mine. He's someone either I can introduce you to, or if you want to reach out to him directly. But what they've done is kind of taken the shell of a robotic device and then put an iPad on top of it, added some other components that are good for adapted for people with hearing issues or sight issues. Also added telehealth, a digital stethoscope. The iPads can be doing FaceTime and such. And so now they've deployed these throughout their community, Baycrest, and it hasn't gone, they've had some hiccups and they've got some stuff to figure out. But man, 5 years, you can argue, is it a year, 2 years, 5 years? But I just think anything when you first look at it can seem so outlandish, and then all of a sudden a couple years later it becomes mainstream. But I just think that there's going to be a lot of legs to robotics in the future, and it's interesting to see that in action as they start rolling them out. Something else that CABI did that I think is really relevant is, and again, maybe some of you are doing this on your own, but they did as they looked at the pandemic and the changes the community was going to have to make, they really put up an advisory council and made sure that there were residents a part of that advisory council from a technology standpoint. So it's cool to see that. Another community in Canada called Schlegel Villages, they had kind of obviously there's no holes in that plexiglass, but you can see a good kind of way to see mom or dad, and got some speakers set up. They've also partnered with Tim Horton, the chain that's all over the place in Canada, and got them to kind of send them free donuts and coffee and do some things for the residents. So lots of cool things out there, lots of business opportunities I'll talk about in a second through all that. We've seen people doing virtual bingo, like I showed before. This is a community in Pennsylvania that they built it's like a selfie station that the residents make the background. It's kind of an arts and crafts thing. They make the background, and then they take pictures and send them to the families. I've seen a lot of stories like that. It's great, where I think something like Mother's Day, a community called Emmanuel in Nebraska, that for Mother's Day, rather than kind of passively wait and hope that the sons and daughters send things to their mom, is they, like 2 or 3 weeks before, they had the mom they did some kind of arts and crafts to send something that was the mother telling their kids how much they love them, and the community took care of all the addresses and mailing stuff out, and the families just loved it, that they got something from mom. And again, the residents being isolated, it's great to give them meaningful things to do through this whole tragedy that we're all trying to sort our way through. So, and then the last clip, this is also back to Schlegel Villages. This is probably not going to pass a lot of the survey folks you're dealing with, but I don't know I guess every community's got its own rules, but this is a pub cart that goes around at 4 o'clock every afternoon at Schlegel Villages, and the residents can have a cocktail. So, if I was choosing a place to live, that would be certainly an amenity that would be of interest. So again, creativity left and right. How about this one? This is back to Nebraska and Emmanuel. One of the staff members, it's a community outside of Lincoln, and one of the staff members, their family owns a horse farm. And so what they've done is they, like, once every other week, they'll bring horses to look through at the residents. If you look at that, the reflection in the background, there could be some horse exploitation going on there, but I'm not going to judge. All I know is that Cameo Rogers, who's a good friend of mine and that runs all their programming there, he said the residents just love it and look forward to when the horses show up. And if we're in if we're talking livestock, let's go to goats. That we know this organization in Atlanta, outside of Atlanta, that has been doing. They have goat yoga that they've been doing with several senior living community residents, but then they also have virtual goat yoga, and there's a couple of our customers that are going to start doing this as well. So the creativity is certainly out there, and there's also a different type of creativity is reaching out to local organizations that maybe you haven't normally reached out to. And this is a great example of that from Oregon. This is a CCRC in Oregon, Willamette View. It's in a really small rural town called Willamette in Oregon. And when the pandemic first hit back in February, March, obviously it had the impact on senior living that all of you are well aware of, but obviously there was all kinds of impacts on businesses as well. And so the lady that runs, it's a small chocolate shop right in the middle of their very quaint downtown, And this lady's store, the front of the store is where she sells the chocolate, and the back of the store is where she makes the chocolate. And so what she did is she reached out to the community and said, you know, our business is shut down, and I'm sure your residents can't get out. How about if I make packages of chocolate for your residents, and then we can set up a Zoom call where when they get the chocolate, I can show them how it was made. And so that's exactly what they set up. So she made these like 45 packages of chocolate for the residents, and they handed them out. And then for the folks that had access to some kind of technology, they set up a Zoom call. And the lady's, you know, in the back of her store, just showing how chocolate is made. And I talked to the executive director about it a month or so ago, and she said now that, you know, now this relationship is there between her community and this chocolate store. They're going to sponsor some events when things open up. There's all, you know, all kinds of things they're talking about doing, and that's kind of my point. And it's very personal to me that I started IN2L 21 years ago, and the whole vision of it came from a friend of mine who, gosh, in 1997, all of a sudden, that's a long time ago, but she reached out to me. I was working in the Silicon Valley, had a real, you know, a lucrative job, and she reached out to me and talked me into donating some computers to a local assisted living community. And again, it was never thought of as a business, but it was so cool for me to see just how the residents reacted to the technology, and my head was spinning of ways to make it better. And that's how the whole company was started. So my point being, it's just an opportunity to reach out to places that maybe you normally wouldn't reach out to. And I guarantee you, they will be a lot more receptive to your reach out than maybe you would think of, just because, again, they're all going, you know, businesses, we're all going through our own problems either. So great, I think, great example of creativity that's very replicable in your own community. And so I do think, you know, people can have different opinions on this, but obviously the pandemic has really put the world of senior living in a media spotlight, especially nursing homes. And you know, to be blunt, most of the stories, most of the publicity has been very negative. And a couple of communities that I talked to, they kind of, their first approach, and I think this is a great lesson learned, is that when you see a negative story about a nursing home that we all get tired of seeing, I think the first reaction is to kind of reach out and criticize the media outlet, whether it's TV or print or whatever it may be. But what these communities have told me is that they reached out, you know, their first reach out was just, you know, somewhat confrontational and didn't gain anything. But then they started reaching out and saying, you know, we saw that story that you showed. Why don't you come out to our community? Let us show you what we're doing. Obviously, you got to be social distance. You might not be able to go in, but there's really cool stuff happening. And about 75% of the time for the people that I talked to, just a handful of sampling, but they said they wound up getting a positive coverage. We're part of a project in Florida called Project Vital that was a partnership between the Florida Department of Elder Affairs, the Alzheimer's Association in Florida, and IN2L. And through the CARES Act, there was funding done to get tablets into well over 300 senior living communities in Florida. And it was amazing, the positive publicity that we got. There was like 30 stories combined between print and television. So there's ways to turn the message around, and it's not easy, but I think you might be surprised at some of the reception that you might get in doing that. So I just wanted to talk before I wrap up a couple of minutes about IN2L. We've kind of built the company on group experiences with either this large screen that you're looking at that's actually a touch screen television, or some of our more portable systems that go around the building. We've had to evolve because with group activities getting shut down, we really started focusing a lot on the tablets, which I'll talk about in a second. But I love this clip. This is kind of this picture. It's kind of an example of some of the group experiences starting to come out again. and you can just see the interaction that's happening. It's quizzes, it's trivia, it's music, it's ways to just engage people with thousands of pieces of content that have all been vetted for older adults. And a lot of what we have is also is built on exercise, different kinds of chair exercises and things like that. So in that clip on the left, you can see people that are appropriately socially distanced, but they're doing some kind of cool things exercise-wise. And then the picture on the right, I think just a powerful picture of on a large screen being able to just have that person's own spiritual moment. We have the people that have our large screens. A lot of them have said that the tablets, which have been very successful, but for a lot of the residents, the tablets are new to them. They're not used to the screen size. So being able, a lot of our customers have kind of set up a large screen in an enclosed room, and they obviously clean it in between residents, but they'll set up a specific time for residents to be able to have maybe 30 minutes in that room. And for some folks, it may be doing a video chat with their family members. For other people, it may be just doing a game or doing something, but just the size of the screen makes it something that is looks more like a television, so the residents are able to be a lot more comfortable with it than they might have been with the tablet. But that being said, we really have put a lot of work into tablets since the pandemic came into play. We've had tablets for 2 or 3 years, but we really put a lot of work into making a video chat that was significantly easier than using a Skype or Zoom or anything that takes login and some kind of a stress. With the video chat, you simply touch the video chat icon that you see on the bottom left of the tablet, and you put in somebody's phone number, and that person gets a text on their cell phone from the community. They click the text, and boom, they're talking to their mom or dad, their grandma or grandpa, and just very, very easy to use. And we've had a lot of really good success with it. We also, excuse me, we've also, part of our technology, and this is really relevant in the context of nursing homes, where you're sharing a device and obviously cleaning it appropriately through the device. But each person has their own experience and what they are. So it's kind of hard to see the names here, but if you look at Gloria, the music that she likes is going to be different than Jackie, is going to be different than the spirituality that Jacob likes, is going to be different than what Joseph likes. So the point is, you just touch the person's picture, and if you're a time-strapped activity director or social worker or therapist, whatever it may be, you're going to struggle trying to figure out what's the content that's relevant for that person. But it's really easy to customize their content. The families can do it remotely by sending in pictures and video clips and such. And it's just remarkable to see the interaction that people can have in that experience. And I think that one of the benefits of that feature for people living with dementia, and I say this not at all with any kind of demeaning context, just a reality, is that a lot of us not dealing with cognitive decline, we're kind of obsessed with every day getting new content. And what's really beneficial for folks dealing with some kind of dementia, living with dementia, is that, again, that video clip that you may have of a priest saying the rosary, or the video clip of the granddaughter, or the visit to the Louvre, or the hymn of Amazing Grace with words going across, that can be so relevant for that person every day. It doesn't have to be that constant quest to try to find new content every day to make it relevant. So again, just having that technology that's available is really a good thing. We've been delighted, and this is kind of I won't dwell on this, but I want to make it very clear and would welcome any discussions afterwards. And what certainly has been a part of our relationship with you guys over the years is IN2L has had tremendous success with our group systems and with the tablets with CMP monies, whether it's with drug reduction or different kinds of engagement or restorative nursing. We've had probably, I would guess well over 200 to 300 projects in probably 25 to 30 different states that are really just really significant projects. And over the last couple of years, we've been starting to do statewide projects. We've done something in Washington State. We've done something in California. We're doing something probably in Kentucky, hopefully Louisiana. But it's just really creative ways that we've worked with the state and different providers to be able to have CMP grants that are just very, very significant. We've had great outcomes. So if you do have any questions about that, welcome the dialogue. We have a whole team of people that all they do is deal with the CMP grants. And again, it's been a great program. We also were delighted to see that CMS had the communications grants that were so well received through COVID, with the ability for folks to get tablets without having to go through all of the usual process in the application and such. So that again, I don't want to be hyping too much about IN2L, but we do love the 21 years we've had connecting residents, and for me, honestly, it's been probably the most rewarding 6, 7, 8 months in our company's history, the thousands of people that we've been able to connect through the pandemic. So this is a picture of the tablets, and this is that project in Florida I was talking about, where we were able to get our tablets into hundreds of communities in Florida. And it's it's heartbreaking and it's heartwarming at the same time to see clips like this, or pictures like this. So anyway, just wrapping things up. I really think, and some of you may be close to this from a regulatory standpoint, but the sense I get is that the whole issue of isolation is not going away, and there really is going to be, I think, on the skilled side, that there may be, regulations that are mandating that when normal communication between residents and families gets shut down, that you have to be able to show that there is some way that you can connect through technology, connect the residents with their families. And I think that's true on the skilled side from a regulatory standpoint, but I also think from a marketing standpoint, especially if families are involved in a decision of where mom or dad should move into. I just think of my own personal experience. Both my parents are gone. But if I was choosing a community for mom or dad right now, I tell you, one of the first questions I would ask would be, what do you have in place technology-wise, so if me and my kids can't get in to see mom, to see grandma, that they're going to be able to do some kind of video chat or whatever it may be. I just don't think it's a novelty or a thing you'd like to do. I think it's just really quickly moving into something that you have to do. So I also think that through the tragedy, there really has been a lot of positive lessons learned. I think it is great, again, how this is the importance that the senior living world in general has put onto the power of engagement, and how important that is when, like I said before, it was more of 5 or 6 steps down the ladder, I think, in the past. I think we're all having to rethink the way that we operate. We have 80 employees in our company. I'm here in my office today. There's 60 people that are based out of here. I think there's 3 people here and 57 working successfully remotely. So we're all kind of rethinking the way that we operate. And I think a lot of ways through the tragedy, it's getting better and more efficient and learning things that are going to be beneficial. And so just in wrapping things up, and there's going to be a few minutes left for questions that you can send into the chat box. But it's just such a heartfelt thank you and gratitude for all of you out there that are doing, like I said, you're doing God's work. You're putting your own life on the line, and I'm so proud to be a part of the profession. And I'm also really, like I said, it's really meaningful for me as one of the founders of IN2L to be able to look at the thousands, literally thousands and thousands of people that we've connected through the pandemic. It's very rewarding, and we're glad we have a tool that helps through that. So you can see my email address on there at the last line on this slide. Again, feel free to reach out if you do want to get a hold of it. The website is, this webinar is recorded. You'll be able, it's going to be posted on the ASO website. And again, I'll be sending a link to Tara of all of the, all the free websites that I talked about that you'll be able to get access to. So with that, I will stop 51 minutes of nonstop talking. And does anybody out there in Cyberland have any questions about, in general, about IN2L, anything, throw it out there, and I'm happy to answer as I sit and stare at the chat box. It's really disheartening if nobody asks a question, by the way. So let's see. Okay, I'm getting the message there are no questions. So again, thanks for the work that you do. I know, Tara, you and I are going back and forth. Anything else you need from me on my end before wrapping things up? Okay, I guess we're all good. Hopefully you got something out of this, and look forward to seeing a lot of you in person when the world gets a little more back to normal. Thanks, over and out from IN2L.